Welcome to episode 10 of Turn It On. Today on the program, Nashville session and touring bassist, currently playing with Trace Adkins, the guy with the coolest name I've ever heard, Luis Espaillat, is here. Let's do the show.
Coming to you from Music City,
Nashville, Tennessee,
the definitive arts and entertainment podcast.
Welcome to Turn It On. My name is Michael J., and this is my show, damn it. Thanks for tuning in. Although I guess it's not really tuning in because you're on the internet. And in that case, aren't we all kind of always tuned in? It's ridiculous. But I still like to look at this as a radio kind of show, regardless of what's actually happening. So, thank you to everyone who's taken the time to listen in and check out what I've been doing so far. This is a labor of love for me. God knows I don't make any money at this yet, but there's still hope, right? I'm still trying to raise a little cash to upgrade the equipment I'm dealing with here, and it's beginning to get a little comical. This very episode, in fact, features a technical glitch. My recorder stopped working at the end of the conversation, and being the ever-prepared person that I am, I fortunately had my iPhone running in the background. So at the very tail end of this talk with my friend Luis, you will hear the audio switch over from the mics to the iPhone, and it's only for like a short little bit at the end. So there's that. So deal with that stuff. We have a link to our GoFundMe page on our website at tiopod.com. That's tiopod.com. We're accepting donations, and we also have a PayPal donation button. So if you're inclined, please drop us a few bucks, won't you? This is a real high-class operation, and we're just looking to try to raise a little money to kind of upgrade the equipment so that I don't have equipment failure kind of like I did on this episode. But anyway, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the passing of David Bowie just a few weeks back. Honestly, it really kind of messed me up for a while, and it's still in my daily thoughts. What a genius he was. And make no mistake, I don't throw that term around lightly, but to turn your own death into a performance art piece is kind of unprecedented, and I'm not so sure that we'll ever see the likes of somebody like Bowie ever again. His music stirred something in me from the time that I was a young kid of only about 14 or 15 years old, getting ready to start my first band, and we were called Exploding Boy, and if you've been listening to this show at all, you've probably heard me refer to that band many times, and you'll probably hear it a lot more if you listen to the show ongoing. We covered Bowie's Ziggy Stardust on our very first record, and I can't tell you how much his artistry shaped the work I've put out into the world. It's still shaping everything. It's immeasurable. So rest in peace, David, and thank you for the music and the untouchable and fearless art that you left those of us fortunate enough to listen to you and to absorb your work. You'll be missed and never forgotten. Anyway, my guest today is bassist Luis Espaillat. I've heard his name since I moved to Nashville a few years back, and I'm very happy to have made friends with him kind of the very second we were introduced. We have a very similar sense of humor, and that goes a long way. So Luis plays with country legend Trace Adkins currently, and has also played with one of my new favorites, Lindsay Ell, and has done countless sessions here in town as well. We recorded this podcast at Luis's friend's place, and it was about a week ago, and Luis was kind enough to bring along a great bottle of Jack Daniel's single-barrel Tennessee whiskey for us to sip on while we talked, and that was awesome. Alana's dog and cat were in the room, kind of jumping around the whole time, so you'll hear that in the background too. But it's a great talk, and I hope you all enjoy it. So let's go to my conversation with the very talented Luis Espaillat.
We have to tell everybody we're not at my house right now.
We're not at your house.
So we're not at my house. The reason being is that it is a Saturday evening, about 7 o'clock, and my youngest is going to bed. I have a 22-month-old is my youngest kid.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Oh, you have 3
So I
kids.
have 2 at home. I have an older one that's out of the house.
Okay.
So my youngest is 22 months old now,
Okay.
and it's about his bedtime. Now, mind you, my wife had said, "Why don't you just go to your studio and do it there, and just so long as you guys are quiet?" I said, "Well, I don't want to be limited to whispering on this, just in case we get excited or something."
Well, we might get real excited.
Oh
It
my
might be crazy.
goodness. And I just didn't want to run that risk. Plus, my studio is not really isolated.
Yeah.
It's just literally an office on the ground floor of my house.
Yep.
So it's great. It's comfortable, and we could, there's stuff around, but
We can do activities.
We could do activities. I could be like, here, pick this guitar up and let's jam. But activities.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to disturb him. So we're at my neighbor's house, Alana Conaway, who writes for Country Weekly, who's just a good friend of ours that we've known. I met her when I was playing with Jimmy Wayne in 2009. And we've just been friends ever since. And since we live close to each other, we're friends. We watch each other's animals. I got dogs.
Right.
She's got dogs. Right. Obviously, there's Audrey. One of her dogs is sitting next to me
on the couch.
She was literally sniffing my ear when I was telling you that last thing.
No, I think she's finally settled into like these people are here, and you get a selfie with Audrey. You should.
She perked her ears up for
did.
that.
You should send that to me, and we'll.
I'm going to. I totally am. That's great.
And the cat is. I'm slightly allergic to cats, but this one looks like it's going to be fine.
I am allergic to cats pretty badly. Believe it or not, my wife and I don't do well with cats, but for whatever reason, maybe we built up a tolerance to that one. It's fine.
I had 2 cats over the course of my life. Neither of I bought them both, but for ex-girlfriends.
Oh,
the first one I bought for an ex-girlfriend, and as a kitten. She kept saying she wanted a kitten, so she was asleep at her apartment one afternoon, and I went to this pet store, found like the one that was the most the affectionate kind of, and came up to me, and so brought it to her apartment, and sort of like she was asleep, and I sort of like threw the cat on her, and she woke up. So. And when we'd broken up, she was getting ready to move to Los Angeles, and we were still sort of in touch. So she contacted me. She said, "Would you like?" And she named the cat Brandy. She's like, "Would you like to take Brandy?" And I'm like, "Of course. I love the cat. Sure. If you don't want her." So I took this cat. Well, then I consequently had this cat for 19 years. I brought her to. I lived in D.C. for about 3 years. I brought her to D.C. with me. She lived there, and then I brought her to Gainesville, Florida with me, where I lived for a while, and she eventually I had to put her down because she got so sick that she was... But in the meantime, I started seeing this other girl who also wanted a kitten, so we went and I got her.
But you have a thing for girls, for cats.
I tell you what,
like
I have a thing for if I couldn't date somebody with a cat now. I did for a while, and it was like
allergies.
I couldn't even go to her house. It was awful. It was awful, and it kind of put a damper on that whole thing.
Bet,
she was like, I'm so like pissed off that you can't like come over, because every time I go over there, I get a sore throat, and it was like a nightmare. And I know lots of girls like, I love my cats. I'm like, well, then you will never love me.
Yeah, that's a tough thing.
But second cat, so got this little black kitten, and then so I had these 2 cats, and she didn't have the heart to take when we broke up. She didn't have the heart to take the cat away from me, because the cat I became its everything. It was like, you are my master. I love you, And so I ended up with these 2 cats, and Brandy and Sambuca, neither of which I named, and then I had to give the little black cat away. The second cat, when I moved here, because there was just no way. I'm like, I'm never going to be around. This poor thing's going to be in a house all by itself, and I'm just, so anyway.
That's too bad. I'm a big animal lover. Obviously, I have been all my life, but for whatever reason, I've always latched on to dogs. And even before I realized I had allergies to cats.
Really, really, really want a dog right now. It's, I know, Audrey. Audrey knows. She's like wagging her tail over there.
Yeah, Audrey's sitting here on the couch next to me.
Like, yeah, it's every time I see a dog, I'm like, oh, puppies, But again, it's like I don't have it. I live with a couple roommates, but they're not around much, and I'm on the road on the weekends, and I'm during the week I'm busy with other stuff. And
sure, this is out of all the interviews I've done, it's been great. I've been very fortunate, with some of those things. I've got to do some cool things, and interviews part of that, whatever. Yeah. But this is like the most laxed, whatever. Good. So I love it. No, Good. I mean this is the idea. So please exactly continue. Because
no, it's funny because like I said, I have some friends who've done this who are like they've done interviews before.
Sure.
And they treat it like it's if I don't preface the thing by saying this is just a hang. This is like, let's hang and talk about whatever. I mean, I have some questions for you that I want to find out.
Sure, we can do that.
We'll get to
whatever.
that. But I like the idea of like, well, hey, like look at these walls are a lovely shade of sort of eggshell green kind of. She's got it decorated very nicely.
Alana's thinking right now, she's going to write a scathing article about us now because she writes for Country Weekly,
and so home to us.
It is. It's great. But now she's like, I regretted doing this. But no,
I opened my home to those fuckers, and they just.
No, I find this really interesting because a lot of times too, when depending on what role you're in, whether you're the interviewer or the interviewee, especially being in the roles that we are currently, I'm the interviewee, you be the interviewer. Yeah. I don't know that part about you, so it gives me an insight of like, what kind of information would you want to have from me?
Yeah.
That kind of, normally it's a wham, bam, thank you, man. You got to get in there.
Yeah.
And usually a lot of the good interviewers are just like, it's all about, you're the topic, I'm talking about you. And that's great. Even Larry King said...
See, I'm already fucking that up.
No, it's fine. But this is the beauty of it. Because
failed.
Because even there was, are you familiar with Chris Hardwick?
I love Chris Hardwick. Yeah,
love Chris. I got to see him live. I'll show you a great picture of me and Chris that we did.
He and Mark Maron are two of the guys that.
Well, it's funny because even Chris says Maron is his idol when it comes to that.
Yeah, these guys are the guys that made me want to do this whole thing. So,
well, the best thing was I was listening to Chris's interview with Larry King.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you listen to that one?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, so there's that point in Larry where talks about like, say what you will about the guy. The guy's a pro through and through, and he will tell. And he put not trying to put Chris in his place, but he said, Chris, the way you do it is, don't bring yourself into it. This is not about you.
Right.
But at the same token, I think that in this format, in the wide world of podcasts that we live in now, and the way media is nowadays, it's a free for all. So this is something that's interesting for everybody, not just
I hope so, man.
It's about you.
I hope so. Yeah. And obviously, I want my guests to look as good as possible, and I want.
That's why we're on audio only.
Well, that's
why.
That's right. But
they can't see us in this.
But format. No, I think it's for me. It's a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, musician friend of mine, called me about.
So you don't have any of those, do you?
No, I have none. Called me a couple of weeks ago, and he said
musician friends,
and he was really he's just brutally honest. He was like man, he's like, you know what, your podcast is just narcissistic enough.
So let me guess, his initials are Tom Hurst.
No, but he said it's just narcissistic enough, and I started laughing and. I was like, well, fuck, man. I don't know. I mean, I guess I look at it like I want people to know who I am.
Oh, sure.
I'm using it sort of as a vehicle for people to know me as well as people that I meet in Nashville and elsewhere that.
Well, they got to know who you are too.
Well, right.
I mean, that's part of the whole thing is like, and obviously now that podcasting has been around in its heyday, we're in its heyday now, has been around for a decade, probably.
Easily, maybe
longer. But like really, when it took hold, I would say about a decade. Because I'm listening to some of these podcasts, like, hey, we're closing on 10 years. I've listened. Obviously, I gravitate towards music podcasts. Being a musician,
right?
I love Matt's Working Drummer. I'm a fan of that, even though I'm not a drummer.
Yeah.
Or other things, but. The one thing out of especially Nashville-centric musician podcasts, which there's a few I listen to, but there's very few that I actually keep listening to.
Right.
And one of them is Matt's. And the reason being is that I don't feel like the podcaster's pitching himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And the reason I say that is because we're talking about you, but I don't feel like it's not you going like, hey, I happen to play guitar really well, whatever, so hire me.
No.
Where I've listened to a few interviews with friends of mine and some of the interviewers, I know personally as well, and I had to shut it off. Because it was
it's
like
just too much of a commercial.
Oh, it's so much to the point where like it was laughable. It was. I get it. A couple points. Yeah, a good interviewer could say this or that or whatever to put a frame of reference. Hey, here's my personal experience, and I'm saying this is a frame of reference to what we're talking about currently, not as a pulpit to sell myself.
No, right. Yeah.
Whereas a couple of these guys that I listen to here or there or whatever, a few different podcasts, I'm like, oh, you're really trying to sell. It became like, and even...
Dude, I'm a terrible salesman.
Well, it's
I've done sales and I suck at it.
my point being is like I guess I'm trying to compliment you.
Oh, well, good. Well, thank you.
In a good way of saying, because you're not. I don't get that sense. It's more like we need to. It's kind of like people that watch Conan O'Brien or whatever, and getting a sense of who Conan O'Brien is. Like he has the monologue to do that. Here's my jokes, and even though that's a monologue and it's written, you still get a sense of his delivery. Like I get a feeling of like I know who he is, where he's coming from, his style. Yeah. And it's the same thing with you. It's like we have.
Cool. Well,
this is. I'm a great guitar player. Blah, 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 blah. No.
Well,
I do this.
I think it makes it more interesting to listen to. Yeah. I mean, I'll use Marin and Hardwick because those guys are brilliant at that. They walk the line. Marin especially walks the line of like. I mean, he has the monologues, and that's I've structured my show kind of around the way he does his show, and it was not accidental. But I want to try to establish my own thing. But I like the idea that, I mean, I have like every day I have stuff that I think I'd like to talk about, or things that happen in my day-to-day life that for me are normal and mundane. But for somebody else, I mean, all my friends that don't do music, or people that don't live in Nashville, people I know in New York that are just, do normal jobs and do normal things. Like we don't do normal life. Our life is not normal here.
Oh, no,
not by any means. But they think it's like the most glamorous thing that they've ever seen. So it's kind of nice for me to, and people tell me, I want to hear more about what you do and all that kind of thing. So I feel like I'm providing that service for my friends and family that want to listen to this, and hopefully outside of that scope for people that just want to know what goes on in Nashville. And that's kind of my goal with the whole thing. Is like I want to talk to as many guys like you that are in the trenches, that have been doing it for a long time, that are playing at the highest levels of what goes on in Nashville. And I mean, I think it's interesting as long as it's not a nuts and bolts like, well, what kind of pedals are you using these days, Luis? Are you, what kind of bass amp do you have? I mean, that kind of shit. It's just, I want to get down to like more like human being stuff. Sure. You know what I mean? Like one guy to another, or one guy to a girl, or whatever, Right.
Well, the information you spoke about, like what kind of gear and pedals, whatever, that's easily attainable online. Sure. People don't have to listen to this podcast to know what I use. They just go online and go like, oh, he plays Aguilar and Sadowski and da-da-da.
Yeah, right.
Which I have for years. There you go. There's my plugs.
There you
so, a Diodario, etc., Planet Waves. But in-tune guitar picks, JH Audio ears, okay. MXR. Sorry, Brian Kehoe.
Anyone else you want to put in there?
I don't know. Okay. Who else? Did I miss any? God, that was a joke. No, seriously. But it's one of those things where, like, all of us, there is enough. Everybody has, and not even through trying, has an online presence.
Yeah, God, everyone.
I have a website, obviously, but it's just something I threw together. And obviously, I have a Facebook page and all that stuff, and a YouTube channel, da-da-da. But it's one of those things where even if I didn't do that, there would still be... and same thing with you. There's pictures of you performing with I don't know, Chuck or whoever. Right. And, or there's if we're fortunate enough, there's a picture on the company's website of so-and-so in Nashville uses our gear.
Right.
And that's all great. So, in these kind of scenarios, if people want to know that, it's easily attainable and it doesn't have to be done here.
Sure.
Obviously, if that's a question, I'm more than happy to answer. I'm very happy with my endorsees are great.
Right.
Because I've gone through a few.
Yeah.
So,
have you been playing for a long time? Like,
I've been playing since I was 5 years old.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, playing music or being around it. I started piano lessons at 5. And the thing is, with my the way my parents were, is my father's Dominican and my mother's Puerto Rican.
Okay.
And they obviously emigrated here.
Sure.
And I'm the first here.
Okay. Yeah.
So here I am. And born in Flint, Michigan. Yeah.
Is that where you're from?
Not originally. Okay. I was born there. Oh boy, here we go. This is going to get long.
I want to know. This is...
I was born in Flint, Michigan. 6 months later, we moved to Buffalo, New York.
Oh shit!
And my dad finished his residency there at Buffalo General. My dad's a doctor.
Okay.
And then after that, we moved to Alamogordo, New Mexico. My dad got into the Air Force.
Okay.
For a year and a half at Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Okay.
Year and a half, we moved to Homestead, Florida. Where
so you were a military kid. You're
for a very short bit. My dad's Air Force was Air Force, and so we did Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. Homestead in Homestead, Florida.
I know where Homestead is. Yeah.
I figured you'd be in Florida. Yeah. And then my dad got out of the military, but he was still considered inactive reserve. My dad actually told me that, and I was like, I didn't know that existed, but he said, yeah, inactive reserve. So we moved to Sebring, Florida, which is where I really grew up. when I was 9 years old. So all that occurred before I was 9 years old.
Okay.
And stayed there until I graduated college or high school.
Do you have siblings at all?
Yeah, I do. I'm the oldest. I've got from my parents split up right after we got to Sebring.
Okay.
So from my mother and father, we have myself, my sister, who's 7 years younger than me, and my brother, who's 10 years younger than me. And then my parents split up, and then from both sides, I have another sister.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, I've got 2 other sisters from that. So I have a total of 1 brother and 3 sisters.
Oh, wow.
And I have to actually think about that sometimes because I'm like, wow, that actually blows my mind how quickly that happened.
Yeah.
But that's all great. And but I stayed in Sebring until then, and musicality was never part per se from my family because my dad's a doctor. My mother was, she had various secretarial jobs and just being a stay-at-home mom. So, but that being said, my dad, it's very much, I equate it with like the right brain, left brain thing.
Right.
And I can't remember. I think the right brain is artistic. The left is.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Whichever. I feel bad. I really should look this up because I
always
use
forget.
I use this example regarding my parents all the time. But my dad's very organized and very businesslike. That's not to say he's a cold calculating machine. He's not. He learned music early on, singing. My dad was in the seminary for a short bit.
Oh, really?
And he learned. He sang in the choir, and he learned how to read music and even how to conduct 4/4 time. We were doing that one day when I was a kid. But my mother is very artistic. My mother was the first one to say, okay, as a young age, okay, we got to get him in the arts too. So let's get some piano lessons in him. We're going to get some painting classes, and the good thing with her is that she says, all right, well, I'll do it with you. Where we got these lessons like piano lessons. My mother and I did piano lessons together. Well, not together, but we at the same time. Yeah. For a while there, but then we would do oil painting classes together. Okay. And that's where we split off. So my mother excelled at the visual arts. She's a great, to this day, makes these beautiful oil paintings. Yeah. I can barely do stick figures.
Okay. Was it pretty clear early on that you had an aptitude for music, or was
it was. Well, that's the thing is like with those piano lessons I spoke of, like I excelled at that more than her. Like it was a little more natural. Like granted, that wasn't say like I took to it like a fish to water. No, I actually kind of hated piano lessons. It was arduous, and for me, it was always the thing of, I enjoy music. I always did enjoy music. But it was the effort to put in to get good at it. At an early age, I got discouraged. Yeah. Because it's like, I got to wait how long before I'm that good? Right. It was that. It was just being discouraged, but I still love music. And my dad loves music as well. Okay. My dad early on got me into classical music. Okay. So and he to this day loves classical music, and he was proud that I took my kids to the symphony. He's like, good, make sure you tell them, Grandpa got that into you, whatever. So that's cool.
Yeah, my dad classical stuff too. Like there was aside from the jazz, there was classical in the house all the time too.
Fantastic.
So I had this great, really well-rounded.
That's fantastic that you had because it's the one thing is like. And, classical, to me, stylistically, all music, one does not take precedence over the other. No. Yeah, it's always, but it's important that you have all of it. So even though, like, it's good you had a jazz background, but they didn't poo-poo popular music or classical music. It's, that was one of those things from my family is that, it was always, arts was always encouraged, which is always,
that's great.
Knock on leather ottoman.
Some people not so lucky.
Yeah, they're not so lucky that there's always been support for that. Even when years later, when I actually started to make rumblings of like, hey, I want to make this my career, my life. Right. This is who I am. My dad is very business oriented, and he just wanted the best for me. So he's like, first reaction is like, well, that's great, and I hope you go to college for that. Cool, but do you ever thought of maybe learning that and something else,
a backup plan
to fall back on,
plan B,
and I said, and I told him, I said, I'm worried about that, and I really don't want to. And he's, well, why? It's like, well, because then I got a feeling, knowing me, I'd fall back on it. If I have a safety net, I'll do it because I fortunately grew up in a very good household. There's nothing for wanting. Right. We're fine. We weren't millionaires, but we weren't poor either. Sure. So it's one of those things where you grow up in that environment. Yeah. That's your comfort zone. Yeah. So it's
same
one
thing
of,
for me.
Exactly. So and especially the music realm, you kind of and I say starve, what people use, I'm a starving musician. Well, starving is kids in Ethiopia. That's starving. You're just kind of not living high on the hog.
Right.
You're not having steak. You're not having steak every night.
No.
You're having ramen noodles a few nights.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. But then again, there's that. So I chose. So again, my dad was like, "Fine, just please go to school." So absolutely love to. I want to go to this school, Berkeley.
Yeah. So you went to Berkeley.
So I went to Berkeley.
Okay.
So and he didn't know what Berkeley was, but the moment I said, "Well, this is what Berkeley is," it's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Because Berkeley's held in those regards as like a Juilliard, or North Texas State, or University of Miami. And for a while, I even looked into. I went to University of Miami. I took the campus tour and everything else, and I wound up going to Berkeley. And when I told the University of Miami guys that was one of the other schools I looked into, they're like, "That's great. Actually, we have a few guys that graduated from Berkeley that come here for their masters."
Oh, okay.
So he's like, so the U of M guys were super cool to me, and they even said like, "You got to make your choice, but I got to tell you what we offer. This is what we have a master's degree. We have something you can go further.
Right.
If you want to go to Berkeley, cool. If you want to go further, come see us."
Yeah.
So I did go to Berkeley, and again, parents super supportive, and which was really good because my father learned about the music industry along with me, certain things.
Okay.
So now he knows, like when he realized that, oh, there's a whole business behind this, and there's a whole infrastructure, and it's not the most perfect infrastructure, but there's something that people do take this seriously.
Sure.
And he's like, "Okay, you got my attention. What's up with this?"
Yeah, right.
So he would come. He came up to campus and visited.
Yeah.
He saw the studios, and he learned. Oh, so that's what a producer does. That's what manager does. That's what your front of house guy does. Whatever. So now when he comes to a show, we're like, "Who's your front of house guy?
Yeah.
Who's your tour manager?"
So he knows all the terminology.
So he kind of knows who's who,
right,
but he's seen it. He's learned it through me. He's from the first big tours that I did to now. He sees it. And he knows what it is, and he learned along with me, which is great. He's always very supportive.
How long have you been in Nashville for?
I've been in Nashville now for 18 years.
Holy crap! I didn't realize it was that long. Okay.
Yeah, it's been that long.
So who all have you played with? Because I don't know. I don't know anything about you other than that you are my friend through Chris Nix.
That's all you need to know.
And that and that you're very spoken of in very high regard around town. You. And every time I've seen you play, I've been like, he's great.
Oh, thank you. Your question was who I've played with. To predate my Nashville time, when I was going to Berkeley, I started playing with, and I was thinking about this last night, I'd forgotten that there was a local band I played with called Tornado Room. And Tornado Room was a 3-piece band that was very much like the Police, which was a lot of fun and very cool. And it was so funny because it was me on bass. The guitar player was the singer, and he was from England. He was a British guy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, very much so. His name was Conrad, and he was a nice guy. And
Conrad.
And it's so funny because even then, and this was now 93, 94, because I was still going to Berkeley when I started playing with them out. It was my first experience playing out in the Boston scene with them. It was him on guitar, and the drummer was a total like Bostonian, Southie kind of guy. And I have to find this. And I was thinking about this last night. I was like, man, if I could find this and give it to you as a sound bite, I would.
I'd love it.
I had this tape recorder that I'd take with me everywhere and record everything. Because I was dating a girl at the time when I was up there. And I would just send her like audio tapes, like, here's what I'm up to and check it out. So I'd tape sound check and gigs or whatever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we did sound check the first time I played with them at this place called, it was called The Tank at the time in Revere Beach.
Okay.
It was right on Revere Beach. Okay. Literally, look out the window and there's the beach.
Yeah.
Revere.
Yeah, Revere.
So, Revere on the blue line on the T. And
fucking Revere.
So we get there, and it's so beautiful because like we got done with the song, and the deck is sitting on my amp, so you hear basically bum, 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 just bass.
Yeah.
But then we get done, and you hear certain things, and you hear a front house guy going like, "Okay, you guys need anything in your wedges?" Connor's like, "Could I have a little more guitar, a little more my voice would be great. Thank you very much." Polite, good, whatever. And me, I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want to rock the boat." I'm like, "Don't worry about me. I'm just the dude here." And then you hear thump, "Can I get a little more kick in the monitor?" So love that. That was a lot of fun. That was my first like, okay, kid, let's go out and play some gigs.
God,
so much fun. This is before I was 21. So like, there's a couple gigs I couldn't do. They would not let me play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like the Rat, and
they didn't let you play because my first band was playing in clubs when we were like 15 years old.
Oh, I know. And I heard all those stories. I'm like, surely let me play. They let 14. No, they wouldn't let me play. They played the Rathskeller, which is no longer there.
I've
which is
heard of it.
Yeah, it was a
very
famous club.
Yeah.
A very famous club there. I think the Police had played there before. Yeah. Thin Lizzy had played there, I guess, apparently way back when. It's a club that you literally have to go down to.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
And they wouldn't let me play there because I wasn't 21. So I'm like, dang it. So I never got to play there. I got to run sound there one night, but that's about it.
What's the difference?
So,
You're in?
I did that after I was 21.
Oh, okay,
so,
okay.
I mean, because at this point I was 20. I think it was 19 or 20, and I didn't get to play.
Wow.
So, but then after that, I got a gig with a girl named Jay Fouché.
Okay.
And Jay's claim to fame, she was a female guitar shredder.
Okay.
And she had deals, like she had endorsement with ADA and Jackson Charvel and GHS Strings, and she would do clinics for them.
Okay.
So I'm like, cool. So I get 3-piece again, but this time it was like, okay, put on your Stu Ham hat and let's go.
Oh, okay.
So I got to do that for a while, which was a lot of fun, and that was Boston. So those are and I did my first like full length session out of Boston. I did a few other sessions in Boston at I can't remember the studio, Sound Techniques, which is over there, not too far from Berkeley, which is one of the major studios there.
Not familiar with it, but
yeah, Sound Techniques over there, and a few other places. And then I got to do a full length record with Jay. It's called Infectious Licks was the name of the. There's a picture of a cow licking his nose on the cover. I still got it. It's sitting in my CD rack at home, and
that's great.
So around this time, finally, like around that time, like I wasn't really thinking about moving to. I started working at this music store called EU Wurlitzer Music and Sound.
Okay.
Which is no longer there. It was a small chain that existed up in the Boston area and the surrounding areas.
Okay.
Had about 5, 6, 7 stores. So I mean, this is back in the day when the internet was starting to creep up, but it sounded like hang on.
I love that you. Oh my God, dude!
So that's how we date ourselves.
I love that you have that readily available on your phone. That you.
So that's what was going on around that time was what you heard and what I was doing.
You just blew my mind.
I try my best. I had a friend of mine. I'd gone to Berkeley with the drummer by the name of Chris Yeoman, who came by my apartment. I was living in Somerville when I was working at UWorld.
Okay.
I just graduated, but I still stayed in town to play with Jay, and I hadn't decided what I wanted to do. I was toying with the idea of going to LA because some of my buddies had gone to LA.
Yeah. This was like what, 92, 90?
Oh, this is now 94, 95, 96.
That was kind of a big sort of time out in Los Angeles, wasn't it? Like
things were happening, and I had a few buddies that had gone out there. Brian Ballard was a buddy of mine, bass player. I don't know if you know Brian or not.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he plays for Jess Satriani now. He's played for Steve Vai. He was playing. He moved out there to play with Dweezil Zappa, with Van Z, with Dweezil and Ahmet.
Yeah.
And Joe Travers, who had also gone to Berkeley, was the drummer who went there first to get it and then brought Brian into it. So Brian had gone to LA. And Brian moved here for a while, and he's back in LA now.
Okay.
But
is there much going on in Los Angeles anymore?
There is. I mean, the thing is with a lot of people I know, like this is kind of jumping a few years at this point, but for a while there, like 05, 06, 07, there's a lot of buddies of mine who didn't live here who decided to come to Nashville before like this now new mass.
I know, man.
Yeah.
There's more people every day, it seems
right.
like.
But they were starting to creep into that. Like a few people started to kind of like I had buddies in Canada that were coming down here who were successful in Canada. Guitar player producer by the name of Murray Pulver, who I had met when I played with Doc Walker. But he used to be in Crash Test Dummies and a few other things. And he's from Winnipeg. Oh, sure. And he'd produced a few, like, he'd made a name for himself. And he was like, maybe I should really, because he's written with people. He worked with Jada Dreyer here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Written some stuff with her. And he produced a record down here. And
I don't know Jada, but I've heard her stuff, and she's fantastic.
Oh, she's great. I've met her a couple times, but it was one of those, like, I knew a lot of people who knew her personally. Murray, Sonny Sweeney, who I MD'd for a while.
Okay.
They're super tight. So I finally was like, hey, great to finally meet you. I love you, and I love your stuff. And she's a great personality. She's very outgoing.
That's
very
what I hear.
Like,
no, well, Nick's played with her.
Okay, yeah, she's the kind of girl to go like, that's her.
I love that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
She's totally cool, and she's a great writer. And but they'd come, and Brian was one of those guys that come down as well. At the time, he was dating this girl, Kira Small, who who'd gone to Berkeley the same time as us.
Okay.
Kira's here in town. He went back to LA, and Murray went back to Winnipeg because they were already established there. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I'm coming here and I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, even though they're super skilled guys.
Sure.
But
easier back where they are.
Exactly. Well, all their work was there. And why would you give it up? I totally understand.
Right.
So, so that was that. But anyways, back to where we were.
Sorry.
I was living in Boston. I was toying with the idea of going to LA because a lot of my friends like Brian had gone out there. And I'm like, and I would love to do, film scoring stuff, not writing necessarily, but to play on those sessions.
Right.
And I'm like, I really want to be a session guy. And my friend Chris Yeoman had come to my apartment in Somerville, and it's like, hey, dude, I'm selling some of my furniture. I'm like, cool, what's up? He's like, I'm moving to Nashville. I'm like, oh, really? What's and he literally just like something went off in his head to where he's like, oh, dude, sit down. You want to be a session guy, don't you? You need to come to Nashville.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what I'm really thinking about. I'm like, well, LA or New York, but he knew like well ahead. Like even this was 96, 97.
Okay. Yeah.
He knew
that's
the score.
That's extremely ahead of the curve because
this is what's happening. He's like, there's other things going on other than just country. And so I'm like, all right, well, so within a 2-hour conversation where he initially came to try to sell me his furniture, he
talked you into moving.
He
here?
talked me into coming down to check it out.
Okay.
But I literally was just sleeping on it already, starting to the wheels were turning. I'm like, yeah, I really got to do something, because I was doing some session work in Boston. I was gigging in Boston, but I had some guys tell me, it's like, dude, this is what there is. Unless you're in some band that makes it big out of Boston, like an Aerosmith or something like that, or you're doing wedding bands and making good money out there. That's it. You're doing what there is. You're playing in the clubs already. You're gigging out. You're respecting the community. And that's great, but you're looking at it. There's no next run. For what you want to do.
Right.
So,
how long did it take you to matriculate into the system here? Once you moved, did it take a while?
It took a second. Well, because my career path, or my path, as it were, is everybody's paths are different, as you know. I mean, everybody kind of. It's not. There's not a point A to point B equals C.
No.
And it's not with me. I mean, I literally took the long way around.
Okay.
I got here in '97. And my connection to the first gig that I had happened in 48 hours.
Really?
Well, what happened is there is a friend of the family's from my stepmom's side, and said, "Hey, you need to see this guy named Jim Carson, who is in Nashville." Okay, sure, I'll go look him up.
Right.
Give me his number. I met him right away. I called him and said, "Dude, I'm coming down." He's like, "Cool. Well, let me." Carson is a merch guy. He's a touring guy who's done merch for, at this point, 20 plus 30 years.
Wow.
No, even 40 years, I think, because I started him doing this in the 70s. And he, at that point, was working for David Lee Murphy.
Okay.
The guy who wrote Dust in the Bottle and all that stuff. So I was like, hey, a few of my buddies are playing tonight downtown. Why don't you come out? And it was a club, I don't recall the name of it, but it was right there where Off-Broadway Shoe Warehouse is on Demonbreun.
Okay.
It's right in that same building. There's a club.
Yeah.
So me and Chris went to the club and saw it. And it was Laura Darling and the Hurricanes was the name of the band. Laura Darling, Jess Leary was in the band.
Okay, no,
Jess wrote a few #1 hits.
Yeah.
And
I've met Jess, I believe.
You probably have. I mean, she's
super nice,
super nice, well-respected writer, and has had great resume.
Yeah.
So because she writes a lot with Laura, and kind of to help her along, here's some of my songs and da-da-da. So one of the guys playing that night was a bass player named Tommy McDonald, Tommy Mac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who you may or may not have met. And Tommy, hey, Tommy, this is Luis, bass player, da-da.
Right.
And he's like, we just started chatting, and he told me, he's like, hey, would you be interested in this gig? I'm like, dude, I'm interested in any gig. I need work.
Sure.
He's like, well, I'm going out with David Lee Murphy, and I can't do her dates, and they're just local stuff, but, I'll tell her you're interested, and that started the ball rolling.
Oh, yeah.
So with me right away, and so my first audition was going to Laura's house in East Nashville, me and Chris both. Chris was a drummer, to audition for her. Yeah. And we were like an hour late to the audition because we got lost getting there.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole 265 loop, and getting in East Nashville, we didn't understand it, and we completely.
It makes no sense unless.
And this is before, like, we didn't have GPS on our phones.
No, right.
We got lost. But she was understanding. So fast forward, we didn't do the gig for a while, and then I wound up doing the gig. One little factor I should tell you. So I moved here in September. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in January of '98, Chris passed away.
Oh, okay.
He was on the road. He got a gig right away. He got a gig with a Christian rock band that was signed to, I think, the Warner division.
Okay.
Or might have been Word. I feel bad. Shaded Red was the name of the band.
Okay.
And they were in a van and a trailer, and they went to do a couple labeled, like they had a show, and then they had another date in Missouri, I believe, as a label showcase.
Okay.
Well, not a label showcase, they're already signed, but it was a show for the label folks.
Okay.
And on their way back, it was January, they hit black ice, car accident.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
you hear about that so much. Like, yeah, it's
it was really hazardous.
Every time I get on a bus or a van, it's always a thought.
Oh yeah, no, and ever since then, for me, it absolutely was. And at that point, I had right before that happened, we were kind of happy with each other because he got that gig, and I got another gig with another girl named Lisa Turner, who is a young female country pop artist, but her father had financed it and had the wherewithal to get us a bus for this one gig, I remember, and then to hire us at a decent rate, and to get us to rehearse at SIR, and so I got to rehearse it, all this stuff that you're right out of the gate. So it was, that had happened, and it was very disappointing. I was still working. I started working at Sam's Music on Demumbrian, so that was my day job.
Okay.
Music store again.
Sure. Yeah.
Right there, which is now, it's the Fly South building. It used to be Nashville Lifestyles had it for a while.
Yep.
Fly South. So that's how I started. So, wow, this is the long way.
No, it's all right,
again,
man. It's okay.
The point, let me truncate this a little bit. So the point being is that I didn't just get right into things. I started doing a few sessions because I had friends of mine who were working as engineers who also came from Berkeley.
Sure.
And I got to do a couple demo sessions with them and whatnot.
Right.
And I was working at Earwurzer. So my goal was like, I had my dreams of being in a rock band long ago.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I was also I just wanted to be a musician. I want to be a player. Right. And then I developed, I want to be a session player. I love that creativity of being a cog in that wheel of making this recording.
Sure.
So, so the rock and roll dreams were definitely,
right.
I no love lost there. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need it. If it comes around, cool.
Right.
So, trying to get matriculated, is that correct?
That's perfect.
Well,
yes.
I have to be careful.
I was an English major. That's you.
Good. I'm
correctly.
so glad. Good. Yeah. My wife will be happy. Good. You got somebody to correct you on these things. Because she cringes a lot of times. I'll do these things and she'll look back or listen back and go like,
oh, no. You're using that absolutely correctly.
Good.
Yes.
So trying to get involved as much as I can. And I auditioned for Michelle Wright. Okay. So my first big auditions. Okay. I was the one guy out of 14 guys. I didn't get it, even though I found out later the band was giving me the thumbs up, but she didn't because she wanted this guy for whatever reason. And I totally get it. That's
funny
fine.
How it works.
It works. It's not necessarily for your abilities or
you could wear the wrong shirt.
Sure, absolutely, it could be that.
Be like this. I don't like.
I don't think it was the case with her necessarily, thankfully, but it was just like, okay, well, they wanted what this guy did different than I did.
Yeah. Okay,
I get it. Totally fine. Then I auditioned for Lila McCann. Mm-hmm. This was now 99.
Okay.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, I auditioned for her, 99, 2000, 2001 at this point. Auditioned for Lila, didn't get it. Again, 7 different guys. I'm like, okay. That night I was playing a Billy Block at Exit In.
Yeah.
And I had met a drummer by the name of Corey Knipp, who I'd met working at Sam's Music, who had just moved to town from Bloomington, Illinois. Okay. And him and his buddy who he moved down with just came in randomly and said, hey, we're new to town, whatever. And somehow we hooked up. We got along great. And fast forward, we became roommates after Chris had passed away. He became my new roommate. And his other guy, so we got a 3-bedroom apartment between the 3 of us. Yeah. And Corey and I started playing together a lot. Corey's a great drummer. He had his degree in, I believe, classical percussion from Illinois Wesleyan University. I'm sure he's listening. He'll correct me on this later. So we wound up doing a couple random shows with different artists. Mm-hmm. Greg Hall being one of them, who does a lot of stand-up now. Sure. Who's made a great career out of that. And he lives here still in town. And I think I saw him at one of the Loud Jams recently.
Oh, really? Okay.
And we wound up doing his record and all this great stuff. But
have you done a lot of session work here?
Yeah.
I've
actually, over the years, have been fortunate enough to do a lot of them.
Okay.
And continue to try to build that up.
That's a tough racket to crack into.
It is out of the normal, what you consider the standard session block of guys, but I've been able to kind of get in and out of those. Like,
Okay.
obviously, I'm not locked in as much because I've gone off to, as it'll become evident soon as to why, because I've flown in 10 different directions.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a good amount of that work.
Okay.
And it be a large part of who I am.
Sure.
But going back to the Billy Block thing, I believe we were playing a Greg Hall show.
Okay.
And I was disappointed because I got the call that day. No, you don't have the Lyle McCann gig. All right, so I don't have another name gig.
Right, yeah.
So go play Billy Block. Cool. All right, so literally right as we're getting on stage situated, Corey's like, yeah, you look down. I'm like, yeah, I got the call. I didn't get the Lyle McCann gig. And he's like, dude, I got to lead on something. Don't even feel bad. I got a good feeling about this. Yeah. Lo and behold, that turns out to be what fast forward into becomes Hot Action Cop, which we get signed to Atlantic Records. It's like hey, remember that rock and roll dream you had before? You want to give it a shot again?
Yeah.
So I got to do that
there
for a couple of years. So 2001, I auditioned for them.
Yeah.
And again, boom, you got it. And then, like, almost in no time flat, they're like, hey, let's go to Room 5 at SIR. There's a couple label people that can come in.
Sure.
The first guy to come visit us, door opens, Matt Pinfield.
Oh my
God!
I
do
do remember Matt Pinfield. Yeah.
Hey kids, Matt Pinfield used to host a show called
Matt Pinfield MTV.
Yes. So in comes Matt.
Yeah.
It's like, hi Matt, and we're all kind of like, yeah, we know who you are.
Yeah, right.
We grew up watching you, and we loved Matt because Matt's a music lover through and through.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what endeared him to all the big name guys. Because dude, you
exactly.
love music.
He obviously loved. Yeah.
So he came in. He was working as A&R for Elektra, I believe.
Okay.
At the time, so he came in to come see. He flew down to come see us.
Wow.
And it was great. So we played him a few songs in that little Room 5 at SIR.
I've been there many times.
You know the room very
I just
well.
rehearsed
The
in it
closet.
last week.
Yeah, the closet, as I call it.
The
padded closet.
Yep.
So we rehearsed. He liked it. He took us out to dinner at Nashville.
Okay.
Because he had a hankering. He's like, dude, where can I get a chocolate malt shake? Because he's a New Yorker.
Right.
We're like,
Exactly.
Oh, Nashville. Cool. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I got this picture of him and us at Nashville from years ago. I got to find that.
That's
one.
cool.
But then all of a sudden we had people from Atlantic and people from a few different labels come to see us.
Sure.
And we're like, this feels good.
Right.
And sure enough, it was like Lava Atlantic, Jason Flom and Andy Carp.
I know Jason Flom. Yeah, Jason Flom was pretty hot on our band, my band Exploding Boy, for a little while.
Oh, nice.
And then it just, it's like one of those things. It's just so tough. It's got you gotta have lightning in a bottle, and then you gotta have like a team of like almost a small city of people that are behind your thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate enough that Jason and Andy Carp, his right hand guy, took us on.
Okay.
And at that time, his pet project was Lava, the Lava imprint of Atlantic Records, which had Sugar Ray, Matchbox 20, Kid Rock. Blue Man Group, Porcupine Tree, which I got hip to Porcupine Tree through them.
I don't know who Porcupine Tree is.
They're a progressive rock band.
Okay,
I'll send you some stuff.
Okay,
they're great.
Cool.
They've got their own following. Okay. It's really good. Their drummer actually now plays for King Crimson. Is one of the 3 drummers in King Crimson.
Yeah, I think like Pat Mastelotto's in that.
Pat's been in there forever.
Yeah,
there's Pat and 2 other guys now. Anyways. So Hot Action Cop happens. We sign the deal in 01, and then we go right to pre-production rehearsals at SIR.
Okay.
So we wind up kind of setting up shop. Now you're from Rochester. Right?
I am from Rochester.
I played. Was it the Lilac Festival?
The Lilac Festival.
I played the Lilac Festival with Megan Mullins.
Okay.
And Megan is a fiddle player.
Okay. Not familiar with her.
Okay, so she was known for the Nashville Star TV show.
Mm-hmm.
She was the house fiddle player, and she's played with a bunch of people.
Okay.
I mean, she played with Trace Atkins on the Christmas tour. She's one of the string players.
Okay.
And I remember we got there, we flew up there and went to the Lilac Festival, and we wound up like we got time to kill. Let's go to the farmer's market, and we wound up buying pies from the Amish and stuff.
Yeah,
like that,
sure, yeah.
So that's what I remember of Rochester.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
It was the Lilac Festival.
You didn't have a garbage plate, did you?
No, I have not had a garbage plate.
Do you know what a garbage plate is?
Oh, I do, because of Mike Moss. That's why I know there's a garbage plate.
I'm going to explain this to people who don't know. The garbage plate is the best, shittiest food for you in the world. I mean, man, if a place opened up here that did a garbage plate, they would, and I say this in every place I've ever lived, I'm like, they'd make $1 million. They
probably would,
because, okay, so this is what it is. It's a big plate with a giant pile of home fries on one half. A giant pile of macaroni salad on the other half, okay? Then you get your choice of meats.
Yeah.
You get 2 hamburgers, 2 cheeseburgers, 2 sausages, 2 hot dogs, whatever, 2 chicken breasts, whatever kind of meat is your preference,
right,
on top of this pile of delicious carbs. And then they throw, like that meaty hot sauce kind of stuff that they have, so meat hot sauce all over it, ketchup, mustard, onions, whatever. And Every time I go home to Rochester, I still have yet to actually finish one in one sitting.
Those things look pretty enormous. It doesn't look like it's a small pile at all.
It's humongous. And I tell you what, any of my friends, every now and again, someone will post something on Facebook, post a picture of one, and it immediately makes my mouth water. I'd be 1,000 pounds if I ate those all the time. But man, right now, like one of those is sounding really good because especially you combine it with a little bit of whiskey, and you go, not that we're getting drunk here by any means, but
no, we're sipping this. This is single barrel.
Sipping whiskey, yeah, exactly. But I tell people that when you go to New York, if it looks like a place you don't want to eat, if it looks like you don't want to eat there, you definitely want to eat there.
Right.
And that rule holds true in Texas as well.
Oh, I believe it, and that's something my one of my sisters-in-laws lives in Manhattan now, and she very much adheres to that. And she's a foodie, so I trust her. I'm like, she knows, like, it's going to be good.
If it looks like we shouldn't go in there, you should definitely go in there.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like when she came to town, the last time she came into town was last summer during CMA Fest because she came out and saw a couple of our gigs. She said she wanted Nashville hot chicken. And she's like, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So, and she specifically said, well, I've heard Prince's and should I do Prince's? And I was like, well, it's kind of it's on a strip mall. It's the hole in the wall kind of place. She's like, as soon as I said hole in the wall, she's like, that's where we're going.
Exactly. Yeah. My brother tried it when he came here to visit not too long ago.
What do you think?
And I was really impressed because he was like, I want the hot chicken. I'm like, because I had hot chicken once here and it ruined me. Like I went to, I forget the place. It was like right near Belcourt Taps somewhere. And it's like you go downstairs to it. I don't know what the place was.
Over there in Belcourt?
Somebody I knew was doing a writer's round at Belcourt. And afterwards, the whole crew, we all went over to this place. And I just wanted to get some hot chicken. I didn't know. I was early in on my Nashville kind of experience, so I didn't know what hot chicken was.
Right.
So we go in there, and my friend Danny, who's a drummer, he's a personal trainer, so he's real, so he's like, let's get the hot chicken. I'm like, all right, cool, man, cool, I can do this. So we order the hot chicken, and I ordered. Actually, I asked the girl. I remember asking the waitress what. Like, I want like the buffalo sauce. What's your buffalo sauce? Like, because, buffalo. I'm like, give me the buffalo sauce. I want the buffalo chicken tenders. And she said, okay, no problem. And so this chicken comes back, and my buddy Danny got the same thing. About 3 or 4 bites into this thing, we're both looking at each other, and we're both like clearly in pain, almost dying. And the rest of the table is laughing at us, and this my personal trainer friend is going, I have to send these back and have them retoss them in something else. I can't do this.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm a tough guy. I'll finish it. Fuck you. I'm gonna do this. So he sends his back to be I'm like, Danny, right now you realize they're rinsing it off in a sink somewhere. And they're putting shit, like they're going to put some other, then put it in the microwave. And he's like, I don't care. So I finished most of mine, which was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. And so the whole next day, without getting too graphic on it, I was like shitting fire for and it was like, and it was just like, it just felt like I got kicked in the stomach. It was like, and so I'm texting Danny, I'm going, dude, I'm dying. Like and he goes, man, my body's so angry. And I'm like, you only ate like 3 bites of yours. Like I ate my whole fucking plate almost. I'm dying. I was like, I'm dying. I'm like, never again. Because and actually to kind of bring it back around, when the girl came up to the table, she was like, well, how is everything? I'm like, well, and so it turns out the buffalo sauce that we ordered was their hottest sauce at this place. Oh. And it was not even mentioned. Like I think if I was a waitress there, if I was a waitress there, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, that's a whole skirt.
I would have another story to be telling right now. If I was a server there, I should say. Is waitress a sexist term now? Is it?
I don't know. I guess I have heard server more often. Yeah. I try to be the whole thing because the first time I started to see where they really were making an effort to kind of not denote a sex in a profession was actor. First time I heard it wasn't actor.
Now it's actor, right?
Actor. So I've always tried to be sensitive about it myself. So like,
I'm failing.
I know it's normal because if you grew up listening to that, it's fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, you make an effort, and you'll slip, and that's okay.
Right.
But I try to make an effort, and I'm like, all right, well, it's like I say flight attendant. I don't say stewardess.
I haven't said, yeah.
I haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
So flight attendant, because it's not just just denoting, because obviously there's male and female flight attendants.
Yeah, sure.
But also, to me, it's like I try to be more sensitive, because like flight attendants, like stewardess is just someone to bring around drinks and food to you. Flight attendants, like, okay, if stuff goes downhill, they're going to help you out. They're trained for that. You hope so. They're trained for it. Yeah. They're trained for it. So you kind of like give them a little more credit.
We talked about the bus and the van shit. Like shit could go south real quick on a plane.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like,
so I mean, that's always one of those things. So to me, it's like not just trying to be cautious about that.
Yeah.
And not to be sexist, but also kind of like, well, you're not just that. There's more to your training. Than
there's much
that.
more. Yes, of course.
So
hopefully I didn't come across.
Oh no, not at all.
Listening, going, wow, like who is this guy? What is he doing? What the hell's going on? Well,
no, it's just a different time. It was just like that. That was
so.
the normal term. It wasn't meant as disrespect. That was the terminology.
Yeah, right.
As it was. But anyways, sorry, hot chicken destroyed you.
No, destroyed me. So I I grew up in upstate New York. Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
I grew up having wings and chicken tenders from the Anchor Bar where buffalo wings were created.
Oh yeah.
So I can handle my spicy
and
shit.
It was meant to have a kick.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So exactly.
So yeah, kind of crazy. Well, listen, to kind of like maybe wrap it up a little bit. Like, so who are you currently playing with?
Okay.
No. I mean, I'm just in the interest of time. I mean,
it's fine.
We could sit here and talk all night. And
currently what I'm doing. Sessions has been a very large bulk of my income and my time.
Yeah.
But live wise, I'm playing with Trace Adkins. And the good thing with Trace is Trace is a great guy to work for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, he, as you can tell, there's a lot of guys that play with Trace that have been playing with Trace for a long time.
Sure.
And any time that you see an artist that has people that have stuck with them for a long time, there's a reason. Obviously.
Right.
And we could just say, well, is this a financial reason? Sure. Is there this? But really, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a good work environment.
Yeah.
And Trace has got a great ear for things. I mean, he's one of those guys where he wants a good band.
Yeah.
Good players.
Right.
He prides himself. He's like, man, my band is this and whatever. So he always wanted good players.
Right.
So, and that's what he has.
Yeah.
And so it's great to be part of that and respected for that.
Sure. How long have you been with him now?
About a year.
Okay.
I've been about a year. I started with him full on January 2015.
Okay. You have a story. I think I read something online. Didn't somebody try to tell you in an elevator that he was the bass player for Trace Adkins?
Yes.
You got to tell this.
Okay.
It's just popping into my head now.
I love that because everybody in the band thought it was hysterical because right after it happened, I was going around on the bus is just pre-show. And I met everybody on the band bus, and everybody, when I told them, they just sit in their mouth agape going that's awesome.
So what happened?
So here's what happened. So we're playing at, I can't remember where exactly, I have to look at my calendar, but I think we were playing at a fairly large showroom at a casino.
Sure.
It's one of those showrooms, and it might have been Louisiana if I'm not mistaken, but it's one of those showrooms where it was the venue is not technically attached to the casino.
Sure. Yeah,
it's one of those big
places.
There's that dome where the Titans train. It's just a big dome put over. It's one of those. So it's like this structure, it's not a tent, but it's this big dome.
Yeah.
Seats a couple thousand people kind of thing. So we were playing there, and I was coming down the elevator. I was already show ready.
Right.
And nothing fancy, just show ready. Just ready to get on stage and go do a show.
You're wearing your new boots and panties.
Exactly. I got my as one of our guys says, international award-winning country and western superstar sideman gear.
Oh, okay.
On.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
I
one
own
of our
some of those outfits. Yeah.
Yes, one of our guitar players tells us that, and I love that phrase. So I'm coming down the elevator, and another guy comes on, and he, looks kind of fancy, not super show ready, but show ready gear could be a multitude of different things.
Oh, sure.
But he's just a guy or whatever, and another guy walks in with him, and the guy's kind of they come on the elevator, and the other guy's really listening to what this other guy has to say, really intently, nodding, said wow, that's cool, man. Yeah, man. Hey, man, we got a musician here. Oh, cool. I haven't said anything. These guys, I'm on the elevator with two other guys
hanging out.
They don't know me. I'm just coming down from my room, going to the show.
Sure.
And it's and I'm thinking, this is a guy who's probably playing in the other showroom with the other band or whoever.
Yeah.
Great. I just said, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, man, he plays bass. And the moment he said that, I literally just perked up oh, really? Kind of thinking, at first I'm thinking.
I play bass as well.
Well, at first, even before I said that, I'm like, well, cool. This is a guy maybe I can, hey, man, I play bass. Cool. What you up to? Kind of, compadre.
Right.
But even before I got that thought out of my mouth, the other guy said, he plays bass for Trace Adkins. Now, mind you, at this point,
Did you call him out on it?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
At this point, what I tend to do is my laminate, I usually have a little carabiner on my loop. I've always done this.
Right.
But what I tend to do is if I'm not where I need it, I'll always scoot it into my pocket.
Yeah, because why? Yeah, because then
I just don't want to.
It's just hey, check me out.
Right, exactly. It's more of that. It's like I don't care if somebody stops me and goes like, hey, can I get a picture or whatever. It's more the like I don't want to go oh, check me out.
No, right.
Just like you said. So it's so funny because I felt like I literally put my hand right here, feeling like to my laminate, going like, I am still Trace's. I'm still. This is not a weird dream.
I didn't lose the gig.
I didn't lose the gig. The laminate's still in my pocket. I'm still Trace's bass player. Okay, and so I just let it go and say, "Cool, man, that's awesome." And the other guy was kind of almost selling this guy more than the actual guy who claims to be Trace Adkins' bass player.
Okay, so he was kind of keeping quiet about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Maybe some guy mistaken. He just ran with the story. I don't know. But yeah, so that's
were they going to the show?
No, they weren't.
Oh, okay.
At least I don't know.
The other guy thought the other guy was going to the show.
Although all I was thinking to myself was like, God, I hope this guy is going to the show.
That'd be awesome. Then you can just be like,
and remembers not that he would. I mean, there's a far. I'm just a dude in the background. He might not even look at this. Oh, that was the guy in the elevator. But
that's so great. Dude.
But the next thing I did was I immediately beelined. I got off the elevator and went to the band bus, and everybody was there, kind of having like pre-show coffee and stuff. And I started laughing hysterically, and everybody's like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Let me tell you what happened." And everybody thought it was the funniest thing ever.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that happened. That was early on. That was. That was probably only a few months into the gig for me.
Yeah.
And the good thing with working with Trace is like it's a no BS kind of camp. It's the camp's like, you're how old? I don't care. You look like this. I don't care. What are you playing?
Yeah.
Don't screw up my songs.
Well, that's the most important thing.
Oh yeah, and I like I said, I got a ton of respect for the guy for that.
Yeah.
And
he's been around for a long time.
He's been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had hits dating back 20 years now.
Yep.
And like I said, the guy's voice is great.
Yeah,
there's another guy's voice. There's a couple artists, namely him and Jamie O'Neill, is another one that I've worked for.
Yep.
That I mean, the world could be going to hell in a handbasket, and they'll get up on stage, and their voice will be pitch perfect night after night.
Sure.
So I count myself lucky to be in a situation like that, to where he values the band, he values our input, and he values us being good players, not. You're going to wear that shirt?
Right.
It's more about like...
Right. Well, there's a ton of the I don't even know what you want to call it. There's a ton of that superficial stuff.
Sure. And look, I get it. I'm not... To me, it's like, I'm not saying like, hey, this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. It's everybody's different. It's just, that's what fulfills me.
Right.
From a live perspective. Now, I mean, obviously, live-wise, I also play... I punch in a few dates with Lindsay Ell, which I've known her for a while.
Yeah, I like her. She's good.
She's great. She's a Canadian artist. I can't get away from the Canadian artists.
Yeah. I follow her, I think, on Instagram or whatever, and it's cool to see. She's cool to watch.
She posted a picture of my youngest son with a road case recently.
I did see that. Yeah. I liked it.
It's so funny because I posted that picture because it's like I had to post the picture just because literally he just instinctively grabbed the handles of a road case and knew how to pick it up.
He was like going after it.
Unfortunately, he couldn't pick it up because the case is 5 times his weight. But he still picked it and he still wanted to, like, was making an effort.
I like to see, man, I'm such a fan of female artists. Like, well, first and foremost, because they can do stuff that us guy singers cannot do. It's it's not possible.
Right. It's not physically possible.
And I like seeing female drummers and female guitar players and female bassists. Like, I just think it's cool.
Well, I like to see them. Now there comes in another thing too, where I have a lot of female musician friends that I know and respect as players, because there is that whole novelty thing that comes into play.
Yeah, I don't view it as a novelty at all.
No,
I
exactly.
Just think
but people do, I think. And some, well, not novelty, maybe that's the wrong word, but the word of like, hey, it's cool to have a female drummer or a female bass player, a female guitar player.
I guess I could see that.
As opposed to, hey, how about you hire them because they kick ass?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, every single female guitarist, bassist, drummer that I've seen in Nashville has absolutely slayed me with how great they are.
Exactly, but that's why they're working.
Right.
I mean, granted, it'll get them so far. I have friends of mine, a couple of my dear friends of mine are players that are female.
Right.
And they do the same thing. They're like, they work hard at their craft.
Yeah.
They're really good, just like any respectable musician.
Well, they have to work twice as hard.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
To be taken seriously. Because because they get a lot of that, what you were saying, like a lot of people like, oh, it's a novelty. So they work twice as hard, man. I always tell, I've had a couple women that I've interviewed for the podcast, and I've been like, man, my heart goes out to you because you have to work twice as hard. It's twice as hard for the women. it's for everything. It's
sure. Well, there's one player, there's they would say to me like, it's like, I really just want to be known as a great player, and I'm sick of this, and they can tell a mile away when an artist calls them because they're a girl,
especially if they're attractive too, because then it kind of goes against them in a way.
Oh, it does. In that sense of like, it could be a great selling point from some perspective.
Oh, sure.
People because it's the cool factor.
Well, yeah.
But again, it's like, they, just like the rest of us, they work hard at what we do.
Exactly.
They want to be known for that.
Right.
And like, one person in particular is just like, I can tell a mile away when I'm getting hired because I'm a girl. And it's like, and I said, you know what? At the end of the day, you know what? They're paying you.
Well, then
take that money.
Go out there, kick ass.
Exactly. And that's what you do. That's all you can do is like, you know what? Take that money all day long. Be grateful because you got that money over me because of this. But then go out and show them.
Right.
What your goods, and then prove them like, you're getting the whole thing. I'm giving you what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
What you really want, which is a great player.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
It does make complete sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, but Lindsay's one of those too.
Yeah,
Lindsay is.
She's a great player. She's a fantastic player.
Yeah, she's a great player.
Yeah, and it's one of those things we're talking about to where sometimes she doesn't get credit for it.
Well, because she's pretty.
She's very pretty. She's a very pretty girl, but she's super sweet and she's very humble.
Yeah.
And I consider her a friend now. I mean, we just texted the other day, and she's a great player, and I hope that the world realizes that soon. There's a lot of people that do, but I want more for her.
Yeah, dude, thank you very much for doing this. I so appreciate it. I'm glad we're friends. Let's do more.
Dude, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's my pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, thanks,
cool.
dude.
Thank you.
Cool. All right.
And scene.
And theme. I really hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. I had a blast with Luis that night. And thanks again for checking the show out. If you guys like what you're hearing, please do me a favor and spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell anybody. There's more episodes coming this year. We've got some great talks lined up. We've got some great stuff that's already in the can that is going to be coming your way very soon. So please join us again. And once again, gotta talk about the PayPal donation page and the GoFundMe page on tiopod.com. Please take a visit there, and we really, really need some money. So even a couple dollars for everybody, a couple bucks a piece will, if there's 10 or 15 of you listening, you're going to do us a great favor by doing that. So please do that, and we'll be coming at you hopefully in the very, very, very near future with another conversation with some interesting folks here in Nashville and beyond. So yeah, that's about it. I'm stumbling over this ending because I have no clue what to say. I'm just really happy that the show's made it to 10 episodes and that you guys seem to be liking what's been going on, and the guests that I've had on have been very engaging and very cool and very interesting. So I will see you all. I won't see you, but you'll hear me. And like I always say, I don't know. Without you, it's just me in a room, possibly wearing no clothing, possibly wearing extra clothing. You have to guess. I'll leave that up to you. So thanks again, y'all, and I will see you again next time on Turn It On.